Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started for now and dive into the thick of things because we have some super interesting matchups going on. We had some crazy polls yesterday. So, just to recap for anybody who hasn't been tuned in with this, we started yesterday, day one of Market Madness. This is a March Madness style tournament for stocks, ETFs, crypto, and NFTs. We have 64 assets, each with a backer that are going head to head throughout this tournament, trying to win it all. Now, it is all decided via Twitter poll. Exactly. So there is no asset return factored in, although, of course, that might help with sentiment. Rather, everything's polled. So we did our first set of polls yesterday, and we got some crazy data from them. So we ended up having polls like PLTR versus O that went for over 5,000 votes. PLTR did end up taking that one in the end. We had Amazon versus Square with 4,414 votes. Massive upset. Square, which was only picked in 25% of brackets to beat Amazon, has now moved on to the next round. We had Dogecoin and Bitcoin move on. I think people assume that. GameStop upset 70-30 by PL, the unknown contender, coming in hot. AMD rolled, and then Bets taking off over SQQQ. Little surprise there, as Ben Bennett's SQQQ was not able to move on to the next round. Certainly busted my bracket. Let's just put it that way. With that being said, we have a new slate of contenders today. We have everything ranging from Ethereum versus Flux to Bored Ape Jakob versus Zipsy Supernormal, XLE versus VOO, AMC versus Spotify, Tesla versus NTNX, and Upstart versus Boeing. We have several of the people backing those up here. We're going to stick to about 5-minute pitches. It's just a, hey, this is what I am backing. This is why I believe it is a great asset. This is why I think it can win this poll. And we might do a couple follow-up questions. And of course, you can feel free to pull in current polling data. And anyone in the audience, you can follow along. It is on my pinned tweet, all the polls right now. And some of them are awfully, awfully close. And some of them are not going the way that we thought they were going to go. So let's dive into it. And we're going to start out with Andy. And he's going to be backing Flux. And hey, man, the Flux community has been rallying today like nothing I've seen in a while. We have 223 retweets right now on the Ethereum Flux poll, with Flux in the lead 53-47 with 1,564 votes. Talk to us about Flux and talk to us if this is what you saw coming.
Hey, yeah. So I am pretty pumped about the results so far. Honestly, going into this, being up against Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency out there, and Flux is still less than, it's almost ranked 200 on the charts. I love a good underdog story, and I hope that some people out there listening do as well, because that is certainly what is happening right now. And then two, honestly, I'm not that surprised with the current result because now the next 15 to 17 hours will determine what the poll ends up like and how that all looks, and let's see if the Ethereum beast gets woken up or not. But for the moment, the Flux community, they're rabid. They're a spry bunch. They are a dedicated bunch. And when you put a poll out or you mention Flux or someone's talking about it, they are like they jump on that. So if you're listening to this and you like a good underdog story, and Ethereum's had their time in the sun, they've won enough. Let's give it to somebody else. Do me a favor and go click on that tweet and vote for Flux, because I would love to see Flux do well in this. Again, they are very much the underdog. If you don't know who Flux is, they are the project that I am kind of repping in this fight. They started in 2018. They started just a group of people, the founders of Flux, banded together to create this crypto project. There's no formal funding, no venture capitalists. It's a very fair launch. It was launched as a proof of work blockchain with miners, and that's how it got its start. It just was the code was dropped into the world, much like Bitcoin. Miners adopted it, started mining it and creating coins. And then since then, the past several years, it's just gotten a lot of traction. What they're trying to do is they're trying to build a decentralized Amazon Web Services. The key difference here is they have a very heavy Web3 focus. They want to build infrastructure for dApps and sites and other things you're going to host in the Web3 world. but in a decentralized manner. And the way they do that is with infrastructure that's not run in data centers, big Amazon Web Services data centers. It's user run hardware. So you can run a computer at your house, or you can start up a cloud server online. You can run the Flux software. You can lock up a certain number of their coins temporarily, like you're staking them. And congratulations, you now have compute hardware online on the Flux network, and you get rewarded every single day, getting paid out to do that. And it's just, and just in the past several years, the Flux network has grown from zero of these nodes on their network infrastructure to just last month 2,600 or so. But they actually just changed the entire game that they're playing with these nodes, the dynamics, the economics of it, and it's exploded. Now they're up to almost 7,000, or they crossed 7,000 nodes in total. And they're gunning real hard for 10,000 plus. So this infrastructure they're building is growing like wildfire. This project, was microscopic, and now it's growing and growing and growing. It's moved up the crypto charts, and like I said, I believe today it is ranked 192 on the top crypto charts. It has a market cap of about $415 million. So it is a small cap coin for sure. But the price action over the past several years has just been incredible. It's gone from 1 cent, or from zero value when we first started mining it, to 1 to 2 cents for a while, and now today it's at $1.81. And the sky is the limit with that. I really think this is a $5, $10, $25 coin in the future, especially because of what they are building. Again, this decentralized Amazon Web Services like infrastructure. Not going to try to dethrone Amazon, the king of this, but just try to get a slice of that pie, because there's obviously going to be companies out there that they host all this stuff in traditional cloud infrastructure, Amazon or Microsoft or whatever, and they want to get some exposure to Web3, and they want something that's going to be more Web3 friendly. So they're going to look to what is already natively built in this realm of crypto, and Flux is a natural fit there. So anyways, that's kind of like the short version of Flux. It's a really cool project. It has a pretty amazing team. They have so many developers that are just like cranking away, just constantly tweaking this thing and making it better. And they have an amazing just community, as you can see by the poll. Ethereum has 2+ million followers on Twitter, and just the Ethereum community at large is massive. And yet, little Flux is still, in this fight for the moment. So I'm here, kind of just representing them and spreading the good word of Flux, because it's one of my favorite projects. It's my top portfolio position. And I love what they're doing, and I would love to see them win this bracket, if not, more brackets or the whole thing in the future. But please do go vote for Flux, and thank you, Gav, for having me.
Amazing having you on, Andy. Been great learning about Flux. I saw it's up 19% last 3 days, you said?
Oh yeah, it's up. It just got. It was recently, a couple of months ago, listed on Binance, and then just yesterday, the day before, it was listed on Binance US. And also, they have all these new node economics happening that's kind of creating this incredible buy pressure, because all these people are temporarily in their nodes locking up Flux, taking the circulating supply of Flux is like 220, 230 million, and right now, like 60 or 70% of that is locked up in nodes. So there's about to be a lot of supply shocks. So I imagine the price is going to do some very fun things in the next year or so.
That is super, super exciting. Andy, I won't delve too into this, because we've gotten our Flux time on Spaces. We've certainly been doing our job getting the word out there. But just imagine the upset that it's going to be if Flux beats Ethereum here. And just to put into perspective, 89% of brackets have Ethereum winning this matchup. And Ethereum was also one of the most popular picks to not just win this matchup, but win the entire tournament. I just looked at the data on that matchup itself. But if I look at it for tournament wide for just a second, I just want to see. I'm pretty sure that ETH kind of got a lot of votes here, if I had to guess. So let me take a look. I have the data right here. So ETH, you know what? It's so split. Like nothing got more than like a few percent. Okay, so he's got a couple percent of the finish. Besides like Apple and Tesla really pulled. But crazy, an 89% pick in the bracket is currently polling, which just goes to show the value of community right on these things. So really, really good stuff there, Andy. Appreciate you coming on and sharing. Great learning more about Flux and what they're doing. Really cool seeing the official Flux account, getting involved with this and bringing them in. I don't know if I don't remember the last time one of my tweets that was a poll got 200 retweets. So probably a record on my end too that I'm seeing something like this. So great to see it. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just say one last quick thing in that, I love Ethereum. I think Ethereum is a fantastic project and done some amazing things in this space. And, I have love for Ethereum. But again, I think I would just love to see an underdog, a project that doesn't have all the notoriety, doesn't have all the fanfare that something like Ethereum does. I'd love to see it win. So, I mean, if you're somebody who loves Web3 and loves scrappy projects and loves the underdog story, then give Flux a vote. And I hate to give a pitch and bounce, but I am traveling and I have limited time here, but I am going to head out after this. But I really appreciate everybody listening to me and Gav so much for having me on. Let me do the bracket in the first place.
Thank you, sir. Great having you on. All right. Let's hear the other side of this matchup. We've heard, the Flux side. The other side is, of course, Ethereum, the one of the top cryptos in this area. One that obviously, I guess, just said 89% of people picked in their brackets. I'm pretty sure I picked it in my bracket. Before we go into Ethereum, real quick, want to give a huge shout out to my co-hosts and the sponsor of this tournament. This would not be possible without them. They're putting a lot of work and effort into this. This was hosted by Bullish Rippers, run by Stock Market News up here, as well as the Pounding the Table crew. We're going to try to get the Pounding the Table crew into here ASAP. They'll be running a lot of these spaces and chatting, so feel free to interact and throw them a follow. And then, of course, we got $10,000 of prize money on the line. We are going to be doing thousands of dollars of giveaways throughout this. We've already done 2 raffles for $1,000 each, and I'm in the process of chatting with the winners. And this is all thanks to StockTwits. And not only is StockTwits great at giving prize money, but it's also the perfect synergetic sponsor for this tournament because this is all about social sentiment. And StockTwits is an app, which you should all have downloaded on your phone. And you can go in there, and it is the perfect place to not just discover social sentiment, do your research, have an understanding of the market, connect with others, and continue to build on everything that you're doing. So, big shot StockTwits. Although I think he just glitched out for a second there. Maybe he got embarrassed. Who knows? But thank you to everything that they are doing, and they're back real quick here. Okay, Tommy, anything you want to say before we keep it rolling?
Yeah, that fat finger can be deadly. No, but thanks so much, Gav. This is a pleasure to be on here. And I have one question: what did you do to the meme stock community, man? There has been no love for AMC or GME on either of these polls, and you have completely bombed my bracket. So this has been a really fun thing to follow, and we're thrilled to be a part of this. So thanks for all the work you've been doing, and excited to get a little bit more into this.
Absolutely. Let's keep it rolling. SoFlo, you are back on the other side of this with Ethereum. It's very, very, very close matchup. And I just want to put this out there. We see tons of votes coming in overnight. We saw a lot of votes. Obviously, we have an international audience as well. They have a totally different social sentiment perspective than us, which I'm pretty sure is what's happening to the meme stocks here because GME was winning. And then, the international audience hit it and it was down 70-30. So, SoFlo, walk us through how Ethereum, capitalizes here, doesn't get upset in the first round. And also, what's the pitch for Ethereum? Why do you like it?
All right, guys, let's get going. So 3 years ago, if I were to talk about Ethereum, I would probably be considered a hipster, right? Everyone wants to see that new coin take off or wants to see what, the project is capable of doing. Since then, Ethereum has now become a mainstream coin for obvious reasons. And I obviously do not need to go into those reasons, but I will for those of you that are tuning in or for anyone that is invested in any sort of crypto, to be, quite honest with you. So obviously Ethereum, it was created. There's a lot of backing with it to begin with, but people were still concerned about it. It was one of the first coins to actually show utility, and it really paved the way for many other coins that essentially Ethereum carried the crypto market on its back. Of course, Bitcoin is just the big boss. It's, who we watch. It's kind of like the sentiment that we pay attention to. But Ethereum has paved the way for many individual coins to be created and to be used. Now, of course, a lot of people, when things get mainstream, they start hating on it. They start finding issues with it. And of course, Ethereum did have its issues. However, a lot of those issues are being addressed with Ethereum 2.0. And from my understanding, part one has already been released, and part two should be coming out within late 2023. So why do I believe that this is not only, I mean, for me, I hold it just as a disclaimer. I do hold this in my portfolio. But the reason I believe that this should have a lot of votes is because they have carried the NFT market as well. I know that the Bored Ape Club, they are pretty much not going anywhere. They're here to stay. And a big part of that is due to Ethereum. So I believe that they have gained a big portion of their market from the NFT industry. Of course, one would argue that Solana is much cheaper and that many other projects are built on it. However, the exclusivity of the NFT projects that are built on Ethereum are one of the reasons that they have a lot of value, supply and demand, right? So that's kind of the big focus with Ethereum. Of course, those of you, that have followed me in the past know me as a stock guy, but I am an avid crypto investor, so it's something I like to pay attention to. Flux sounds like a very interesting project, and I know a lot of people like to see the new underdog project, take the lead or show something new to the crypto and the stock world. However, at the end of the day, you have to give respect where it's due. And Ethereum has been there, and it has dominated many, many coins, and it has really set the new precedent for the crypto world from 5 years from now, 2 years from now, 100 years from now. And that is why I picked Ethereum.
Very cool, man. Yeah, I've got some ETH. A lot of people transacting it. We've seen it become widely used now for purchases of Web3 assets, and it certainly, has a large backing, has a large community. Like I said, picked a 90, ish% of those, and still pretty tight. Do you feel any worry or concern in this matchup versus Flux here in this poll?
I think the avid crypto guys that are out there and that end up, following you through this, I think they'll know the right decision to be made there. It's quite clear that, there's been one project that has really been able to pave the way to many, many, many projects. And there's really, it's self-explanatory, right? To me, I love hearing about new projects. I think Flux sounds very, very cool. But if we're talking, you can't really have friends when you're playing on the court, right? So with that being said, I mean, if we're really going to give respect where it's due, then Ethereum takes the cake, guys. I mean, it really, really does.
There you go, man. You heard it here. So everybody, if you haven't already, that is a tight matchup right now. Your vote could decide it. We had polls yesterday decided by less than 90 votes. Obviously, this had a ton of votes on them. This one doesn't have that many yet. In fact, we have right now a 50-50 matchup with Bored Ape Yacht Club and Zipsy Supernormal. So that's literally, your vote could change that right now if you go click. Ethereum Flux is 47-53. AMC Spotify is 52-48. I mean, these are tight tonight. So definitely get in there, make sure you're voting. But Soflo, I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yep,
all right.
Hosting this, appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, let's keep it rolling here. So those are going to be the cryptos that we talk about for the evening. Let us move now into some of the stock side of things. And I want to start off first. We have both sides of this matchup with Boeing and Upstart. Two stocks that have been in the news a lot over the last year, for better or for worse. They've had their ups, they've had their downs, and now they face off head-to-head in a matchup currently being led by Upstart at 66.4 to 33.6. However, there's only 274 votes in this, meaning that although it has a 30% lead, that is less than 100 votes at the moment. An easy one to flip if the Boeing stands were to come out. Let's start out with the last time we started with the underdog. Let's start with the winning side here with Danny first. We're doing a 5-minute pitch here on what you like about Upstart, why you like in this matchup.
All right, thanks, Gav. Appreciate everybody up here. Appreciate everybody in the audience. You know who to vote for. I think. Come on. We're not crashing any planes. We're not crashing any cars. Upstart is going to win. But listen, I think from a business standpoint, certainly not as big as Boeing. Let's be honest, right? But from a technical standpoint, just take a look at that Boeing chart. It's been in a perpetual downtrend, and you could say the same for Upstart for sure. But I think Upstart's got a much better setup and a much better upside in the short to medium term than Boeing. I think Boeing just it has one issue after the other. A couple of other things on UPST. They recently announced a partnership with Volkswagen and Subaru for its Upstart Auto Retail program. So um, I think 66 or so percent of their traffic originates from mobile devices. And I think the new mobile platform will also boost sales moving forward. Um, yeah, I just think that there's just huge upside for Upstart and what they're doing, especially, from AI lending, um, from that perspective. And then just this new deal with Volkswagen and excuse me, and Subaru, pushing them more into the automotive lending section. I think there's just a lot of for lack of a better term, upside to Upstart. So, like I said, in the near term and medium term future, I think, like I said, from a technical standpoint, I really like where they're at. They were just recently down by $100. They bounced right off of it. Got a beautiful symmetrical wedge setting up. I think over 128, and I think this one starts to fly. So keep an eye on Upstart. I'm sorry, Boeing. You've had your day. You're a legacy player. What can you do? But Upstart for the win for sure.
Aside from the fundamentals and technicals, what do you think the social sentiment is around Upstart here? Right, they were the king of the castle. Right, what does this stock do? It goes up. Then they lost 75% of their share value in 2 months. Now they've been flagging for a while. How do you feel sentiment is around them?
Yeah, I think definitely sentiment in the last year is down. I think that's obvious. But for anybody who knows anything about recent IPOs, this is pretty much the story that usually plays out. I think what we'll wind up seeing is maybe about a year base being built out. Watch to see it kind of consolidate for the year, build out its nice base. It's still well over its IPO price, and there are many names that after a year and a half after the IPO, they're below their IPO price. This one's not even close to it. So, like I said, I think it's made a series of higher highs and higher lows over the last few months, and I think from a sentiment standpoint, people have to understand what the company does, where it's going to go, and it's going to go back, back to the highs. I can't say it's going to happen this year or even in the next couple of years, but they're making all the right moves. Like I said, I think you will see soon they will be back in an upswing, while Boeing is just, it's been fading for a while, for a long while, and they can't, as big of a company as they are, they can't seem to get their act together.
Awesome, Danny. I appreciate you coming on, making the pitch, making the case. Currently, Upstart is in the lead. We'll see if it can maintain it through the evening. A stock that is in my portfolio, I will put out there. So I'm looking at it. And just for the data, I do like to drop these data sets, kind of look at how many brackets would be busted if something was to happen. If we take a look at the Boeing Upstart matchup, I believe it did lean decently heavily towards Upstart, but let me just make sure that I can pull up that data real quick. Here it is. Oh, never mind. Okay, I got it. Let's see if this is a semi-even split. What do you think, Danny? How do you feel this final bracket data set split?
So I'm sorry, say that one more time.
What do you think the final split on submitted brackets was?
So I think when we checked this out yesterday, we were around the same percentage. I'm going to make some phone calls. We're going to get this at least 72% Upstart.
There you go. Yeah. So when brackets were submitted, it was 67% were submitted favoring Upstart. And currently that is being reflected in the poll, which I believe is kind of right on that number. It is 68%. Yep. So right now it's in line with the bracket. But again, less than 100 votes in this lead can flip this entirely. We've seen sentiment move. Boeing did have some rough stuff, but, it's a 24-hour news cycle nowadays. So let's see what happens. And of course, backing Boeing for the second year in a row, we have Luke Dene back on stage. What's up, Luke?
What's going on? Thanks for having me. So yeah, you have to look at Boeing, in my opinion, as a longer term underdog play. That's been my thesis for roughly 2 years. It's been in my portfolio for just about 2 years. And I've held it throughout that entire amount of time painstakingly, eventually, and being patient with the company. But you really look at the company, and if you're looking at Boeing, you're looking at it as that underdog play. It's a company that has gone through just an insane amount of negative news for, I would say, probably 2-3 years. Really, 3 years it's been now that this company has been suffering from negative sentiment, negative crises. They got double whammied, 19 to 20. Obviously, some terrible issues with their aircraft, and then COVID and the whole travel deceleration, which really put a pause those 2 years on their core businesses entirely. So at that point, it comes down to, is the company priced currently at a point where it looks attractive on a multi-year basis that's going to provide some opportunity? And I continue to argue that it is. So if we just dig into the numbers, and I first want to touch on deliveries, and then I'll get into the financials real quick. You look at deliveries. So in 2019, they were doing 380 deliveries. In 2019, they were doing, well, I just covered 2019. 18, they were doing 806. So that's a big time cut. They went from 806 to 380 total deliveries. And then in 2020, they really had their worst year, down to 157. And now 2021, they just reported their fourth quarter. Those deliveries are back up to 340. So they're rebounding off those lows, which is something I want to see, especially if I'm looking for a recovery. But you also want to see stabilization in the financials. So coupled with terrible delivery numbers for 3 years, what you have also seen is obviously terrible financials, but those financials are slowly starting to come back. They're slowly starting to stabilize. So if you look at the year of 2021 in comparison to 2020, you saw a significantly better Q2, revenues up 43%. You also saw Q3, that was significantly better. Revenues up 8%. Unfortunately, in Q4, revenues were down 3.3%. But you dig into these numbers, and for instance, you look at cash from operations. That was positive for the first time since 2019. You look at cash from investing. That was positive, actually, now for the fourth quarter in a row in comparison to many years ahead of that. You shift in the net income. Net income, the final quarter wasn't the greatest, but they did have, unfortunately, some payments when it came to regulation, but hopefully that's figured out looking ahead. So you look through these numbers, and you continue to look through these numbers. For instance, gross profit, that's been stabilizing. You look at their debt pay down. They're starting to pay down that debt that they accumulated, or further debt that they accumulated throughout their crisis. And then finally, I want to shift in to the backlog. So you take a look at this backlog, and their backlog continues to grow. Q4 2020, the backlog was 363 billion, and now it's 377 billion. At the latest it was reported, which was Q4 of 2021. So backlog is continually growing. You are starting to see these financials stabilize. You're starting to see deliveries come back, but also you shift into the catalyst front. So obviously, a huge issue with Boeing was the 737 MAX program. And you take a look at the recovery of that program, and they had finally got approval to return here in the United States by the FAA. And if you take a look, really since January 24th, the MAX 737 has completed 300,000 revenue flights, which you really take that down to reliability, and the reliability of the 737 MAX since it resumed is 99%. Now, we also take a look at that program, and you take a look at production. Currently, the 737 program is producing at a rate of 26 per month, and they expect to ramp that up in 2022 to 31. So you're starting to see production, especially in key areas such as the 737 MAX program, come back throughout this year, which is a longer term investor I like to see, and I think many would like to see. And then finally, China, huge market. You take a look at what's going on in China, and finally, the 737 MAX program is beginning to get put back into gear when it comes to China. So in December, China came out and basically gave the airlines, Chinese airlines, guidance. And they said, this is what you need to do to get the 737 MAX back in the air. And if you take a look on January 9th, a Chinese airline flew the 737 MAX for the first time we've seen since 2019. So the company is slowly on its way back. Now, there is one negative that I need to bring up, because when I argue for a company, I also bring up the negatives, and there's multiple negatives. But one of the key negatives at the moment is the 787 Dreamliner program. They have improvements to make there, according to the FAA. But that's also, if you look at negatives, there's always a positive on the other side typically. And this provides an opportunity, because when that 787 Dreamliner program gets back to its full ability, that's going to be a net positive catalyst when they start ramping up production once again in the 787 Dreamliner program. So that's a forward-looking catalyst I'm looking at. Also, if you look at Boeing, it also tends to trade when it comes to travel performance. And travel performance is such a key, because obviously airlines are fully reliant on travel. And if you take or mostly reliant, and you take a look at travel, and that is expected to actually be quite strong throughout this year. So if we get strong travel throughout the United States and globally, that's also going to be a net positive simply for sentiment. And then the final thing I'm going to round out on is some multiples in some not delivery numbers, but margin numbers. I apologize. But you take a look at multiples, and I look at the EV to sales. And what I see is an EV to sales that has came off over 3 times. It's now at 2.5 times, which I like to see. It's back to roughly 2019 levels. That seems attractive to me if you're looking to get in on the longer term. But also price to sales ratio is at 1.8 times. If you go back on an annual basis, that's actually the lowest level we have seen, both in 2021 and currently. It's remained the same. You take a look, that's the lowest level we've seen in their price to sales since 2017. So on a valuation basis, it's not all too bad. But of course, you do want to pay attention when making those calculations and comparisons that the company didn't have as much debt on the balance sheet at that time. So that is something to know. And that's another negative I want to bring up, because I'm the type of person, I'm not just going to bring up all the positives and ignore the negatives. And then finally, I take a look at margins. So if you take a look at Q4 operating margins by segment, the commercial airplane segment, that 2020 margin was negative 161.8%. It has improved to negative 93.8%. You look at defense, and unfortunately, that was a net negative. It went from 7.4% to negative 4.4%. But on the flip side, their global services saw a sizable improvement in their operating margin from 3.8% to 9.3%. And on an annual basis, you actually saw improvement also in commercial airplanes operating margin and global services operating margin. So overall, I look at the numbers on a fundamental basis, and what I see is gradually either the numbers are improving or they're stabilizing. I look ahead over the next few years, and it really comes down to the fact that, do I believe this company is going to start to get some ground back under them and start to recover? And the numbers and what management is doing in the future catalyst point to the direction that it is. And honestly, you're looking at a company that has plenty of room for improvement still, getting back to an average. You look at 2015 through 2018, deliveries were from 748 to 806. So if they can even recover half of that, you're looking at, I believe, a stock that should see some upside. It'll be interesting to see what the future holds. I am mostly a growth investor, so Boeing has been in my portfolio to simply add also some diversity, but I think it's a great way to get an underdog play and some diversity into your portfolio, alongside obviously all those fantastic growth names such as Upstart. I won't deny it. I also like Upstart, and it's also a great company. But that's really what I have to say on Boeing, and thanks for having me.
Dude, if anybody can pitch, it's you, my man. That was valiant. I love that. And comeback story in the making. It's got a strong backer. Clearly, your stuff and everything that's going on. But I thought that was awesome. And I think you covered everything. Covered fundamentals, the social sentiment, the case in point. So if anybody's heard this side and was swayed and hasn't voted yet, again, that is the pinned tweet. Just scroll down and click in. Luke, anything else you want to say?
I just want to remind everyone, as I always do, especially the past few months, stay nimble. That's one of the keys, in my opinion, to this market that we're currently in. Just remain nimble. And if you remain nimble and patient and you manage your risk is number one. I think you're off to a good future. I think it's going to be very bright.
Beautiful. Danny, you are using some guerrilla tactics over here in your retweet.
Oh, listen, I'm pulling out all the cards. I've got a big mailing list. I'm gonna get this number up. I want no offense to Boeing, no offense to Luke. This is all hands on deck. The pup squad is gonna come out. We're gonna smash it, and we want Tesla. We're coming for Tesla. Bring Elon on.
You heard it here, folks. They want Tesla. That is true. The winner of this matchup does get to face, it's looking very likely, Tesla. So something to look forward to there, but very, very cool. And Luke, check out his retweet on the post. I think you'll enjoy it. All right. We have two more matchups we're going to be chatting about tonight. One of them, we have both sides, which is going to be the AMC Spotify. And because that one's super tight, I'm going to save it for the next because it's going to take a little bit longer. But first, we've got Decade Investor. We only have there is no backer on the other side. It's actually one of the one-sided ones in the first round. But you've got VOO this year. I know it's something that you wanted. It's very cool that I'm having you do VOO because I feel like we get the full range. Like earlier, we were doing NFTs and crypto. Now you're pitching the classic, ETF. A really nice range here. So Decade, it seems to not be having too much trouble. I think in its matchup right now. I haven't looked too recently, but I thought VOO was it's leading 76% to 24%. So it's going along. But give us the pitch. Why should people be checking out VOO here? Why do you like it? Why did you pick it?
I mean, I could just mic drop and just say, why not? It's the S&P 500. It is the tried and true. It is the it's since the 20s been the OG since 1950s when they added to the 500 companies. The OG. It will forever be the OG in my opinion. And just in terms of market, like actual returns, not just in this tournament, but like real life returns in the market, been the consistent OG. Really easy matchup in round one. I mean, like a 16-1 seed, there was no UMBC going to be happening here, taking down Virginia. We're good here. Moving on to the next round, guaranteed. I'll bet the house on that one. But yeah, I mean, it's the S&P 500. I think it kind of speaks for itself. There's really no, in-depth analysis I can do other than the fact that basically this is how I explain to people when they're asking about the S&P 500 is imagine the S&P 500 failed, right? Imagine the S&P 500 goes to zero. Whatever Boeing's doing won't matter. Whatever Tesla's doing won't matter. Whatever Spotify's doing, AMC, none of that stuff's going to matter, right? Because we got other problems than what's in our investing accounts. And so the tried and true VOO S&P 500 is the GOAT, is the OG. I just, I'm glad I picked this one because I wanted to be a part of this, but I've been spending a lot of time in like crypto and research and that stuff. So this is my, my OG. I'm putting a lot of money that's all I'm investing into out of my own money, minus a little bit in some individual stocks. 98% of my money is going to VOO every single month right now, just with the way the market is. And so maybe once we make it past round one, which I know will happen, next week I'll do some to kind of get some hype around it. I'm going to do some bigger buys into VOO just to prove that I can back up my pick with actual money. So I'm pumped for VOO. Again, S&P 500, tried and true. It's the OG. It is the Michael Jordan or the LeBron James. I know there's always arguments on whoever's the GOAT. It's both. It is both. That's what VOO is. And excited to see how far I can take this bad boy in the tournament.
Very cool, man. Yeah, certainly a powerful one here. Something to continue to keep an eye on, and very much watch. We knew it was gonna, be a tough contender in the first round. Real quick for the next round, this is going to either go up against Gold or GBTC, which is the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, and those are going to get pulled on Friday. Which one would you be a little more worried about if you had to face it?
Neither. I think both of those gold and the Bitcoin trust, decent. I mean, in terms of the sentiment, like it's fine, but in the market, I'm not, and excuse me, in this, I'm not worried about it at all. I think we'll easily, I mean, we're up 75% over XLE, and then I'm pretty sure we'll walk pretty easily to past either of those, gold or GBTC, whichever one, and move on to the next round. So to be honest with you, I'm not worried about either. We can take up both, take on either. We can take on both. I think you put up a poll of 3, we're still going to win. So I'm not too worried about VOO moving forward in the next round either.
Perfect. Awesome, man. Appreciate you, always making the case, being so flexible to, I feel like our styles definitely align, and you're someone who kind of inspires me to, look at different asset classes and have a really good understanding of my finances.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm going to, a side point, I'm going to be in Florida next week, so I'll message you.
Word, man. You're going to be in Miami?
Fort Lauderdale. So
cool.
Close. Yeah.
Cool.
We'll
Yeah. Give me a text.
All right. I'll see you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. All right. Final matchup of the evening. It is neck and neck, pretty much dead center. It's been moving actually while we've been talking on here. I've been watching this one, and I think both sides have a lot to fight for here. And the thing is, we actually knew that this was going to be close based on bracket submission. So right now, AMC Theaters, and Spotify are going head to head. This one has 681 votes already, but it is a mere 6% apart at 53% to 47%. So this could easily flip, and we definitely expect to see more votes coming in. There's only 4 retweets on this poll so far. A lot of these other polls certainly have more than that. So we could continue to see people that are influencing the way that this is decided. With that being said, let's take it first to Fat Baby Funds, who is backing Spotify. And Fat Baby, before you actually kind of dive into it, I just want to give everybody the data set. This was one where we talked throughout last week, and we were saying, listen, even though AMC is soaring here, and yes, it's up like 80% in a week or something like that. I think it got halted up today and then halted down. We did see a lot of people that were voting for Spotify in this, that weren't voting for AMC. And, a lot of people thought, first off, this is going to be a sweep, right? AMC, they've got the apes, they've got the backers. But when it turns out, when you look at it, and I've got the data set right here, the final number was super close. So it was, let me do this percentage-wise. It was literally, final pick was 54.6% was for AMC, and Spotify, conversely about 46%. So very close, basically where it's pulling at right now. So Fat Baby Funds, GME went down yesterday, 70-30 to PL. Talk to us today about Spotify, why you like the stock, and what the case is that it could take down AMC.
Yeah, I love Spotify overall. I think it's got a ton of potential. And really, my bull case is multifaceted, but overall, it starts with that they've overcome major competition from Apple, Amazon, Google. Spotify's gone up against them all in from music to podcasts, and it's really dominated them. If we just step back and look at podcasts alone, Apple had a 10-15 year head start on podcasts, and as soon as Spotify entered the market, Spotify took over. Apple is sitting on a huge advantage. They have all of the hardware. It's native to the iPhone. Same with Google and Android. They both have huge advantages over Spotify, but that hasn't stopped Spotify at all. Spotify has dominated the music scene. They've dominated the podcast scene, and they've done it against crazy competition, the biggest of mega tech. And it's very impressive the way they've done that. Now, the real question when you start to zoom out and look at it is, can Spotify make money? Because right now they've sort of been trending around cash flow neutral for a long time. And there's some questions around the business model with the way royalties are paid to the labels and to the artists. There's not a lot left on the music with the way the current licensing deals work, with Spotify for Spotify to make a lot of money. So right now, that's sort of the drag. That's the reason they're a tech company, but they have crazy low gross margins overall. And it's really driven by those licensing deals. But as Spotify continues to gain more and more users over time, and for instance, they went from 138 million monthly active users in 2017 to now they're above 400 million. So they're growing pretty consistently. They're growing, and they gained the most users they've ever gained last quarter. Just because the numbers are getting so big and they're still growing 20% quarter year over year, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of money to be made as they keep gaining users. But the key is with those users, they have to use that either to go into new revenue streams or as leverage versus the labels. And that's what the market is really questioning, whether either of those will happen. Because right now, the Spotify is a cash flow neutral company. I think there's a lot of questions on when they will become cash flow positive. And overall, I think it's going to be sooner rather than later with some of the optionality that they've been showing with going into podcasts. They're going into audiobooks. They're really trying to take advantage of the creator economy. And they're pivoting from a music company to an audio only company. And then another portion of my bull case for Spotify is this is a great company led by a young founder with a great track record of taking down massive competition. And you zoom out and you look at it, and they're trading at a price to sales of 3. Obviously, that part of that is because of their business model and the market saying, hey, those gross margins, it's going to be hard to make money. But I believe entering the podcast market, taking advantage of the creator economy, sneakily they're becoming a media company, which brings its own kind of risks. But I believe all of that is going to be able to let them leverage their massive user base of 400 million users into other profitable endeavors. And they'll just continue to find different ways to make money and gain more and more leverage over the labels as they do that, which will allow them to make more money on music and make more money on everything else. And then all of a sudden, it's going to be a whole different company financially and a whole different valuation. And that's my rough bull case for Spotify.
Very cool. Yeah, I know we've had some great pitches from you on Spotify talking about the movement towards podcasts, right? The Joe Rogan signing and some other areas that they have done. Now, walk me through the social sentiment with this polling here, which is so close.
Yeah, I mean, AMC, it's a silly company, from the meme movements to buying a gold mine to their CEO going on Zoom with his pants off and his video falling down. It's just a silly company. But it's got a following. It's got a strong 8 following. They've really made it into a movement. And so it's going against a real company, and I think that's going to help Spotify overall, is that there's a lot of people who are just sort of on the meme movement that's been going on. But there is a small, strong following of AMC that it'll be tough to beat. It's a tough first draw, but I think Spotify will do it, and I'll keep pumping it the rest of the day to make sure it does.
Very cool, man. Great having you on here. Love the pitch. I'm a big Spotify user every single day. Anytime I'm not looking at a screen, I'm probably listening to Spotify, to put it simply. So I'm excited. We've chatted a little Bill Simmons, little Ryan Russillo. Good times all around. I'm now trying to listen to some more Pomp, because he brought on some people that I like on his podcast. So we'll see what happens. But they certainly have what seems to be, to me, by far the best interface, and have brought on some really successful people to help them with that. And then great CEO and everything around. So great pitch, Fat Baby. Anything else you want to add on that?
No, just thanks for having me. And
Absolutely.
Vote Spotify.
Absolutely. There you go. Okay. Let's take it to the other side of this key matchup, which gets to go against PL in the next round, and then has a date coming up with Apple not too far off in the near future, whichever one wins this one. That's very assumptive of me.
let's just say. Apple has a lot of work to get there too. I thought it was going to be in the next round. But if it gets through this round, and if it gets through the next round,